my God, don't do this to me. That's what I say to my computer every time I try to join the show in the morning, the radio show.
Really?
Because I wait.
Say, oh my God, don't do this to me.
I'm like, oh my God, don't do this to me. Not now. Don't do this to me.
Does it ever do it to you?
It always does it to me.
Oh, what's it doing?
Always something wrong. Settings are wrong. It takes a long time to load something. Anyway, you were trying to show me something and I didn't see it.
Okay, hold on. My voice hurts.
Yeah, because you have Omicron. Everyone's got Omicron.
Do I have it?
I'm sure you do.
Oh, no.
It's the fastest spreading variant there is. Everyone's got Omicron. What is that? Sharing your screen, presenting.
I just felt, can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just felt like this was a
No,
really
I can't.
good...
It was my mouse. I can't. I thought it was
okay.
yours, but it was the cursor to my mouse over the picture.
Got it. Okay. So I just thought that this was a really good example of the acting in this show where Charlotte is an idiot and Carrie is overacting and Miranda is like an actual person.
No, Miranda's no longer an actual person.
No longer, correct. She no longer is.
She's a bumbling moron.
Well, she kind of looks like an idiot there. So
You're really loving, and just as our audience is really going to love this new episode. another Sex in the City episode. Except
it's important. We have to talk about it. It needs to be.
I know that I look.
I have to get it out.
We're doing it. I have
Roy?
made it my New Year's resolution that when you make suggestions for the show, I will no longer shoot them down. I will just roll with it. Despite the fact I think about the audience and think about how there are probably many people who listen to the show who have no interest in Sex in the City and Just Like That. And maybe we lose them forever. They say we can no longer trust Autumn and Greg to give us content that we enjoy listening to.
Well, guess what? It's our show.
Well, I'm going to do a thing where I try to tie it into something bigger, and I don't want you to feel as though you're abandoned.
Don't do that. Talk to me about this. I need you here, Greg.
I'll talk to you about this, but I'm going to try to tie it into a bigger thing at some point. I won't abandon you. We can talk about it. But I think there's got to be a reason to talk about it.
The reason is because it's happening, and other people are also suffering. And if that isn't the people in our percentage of our audience, that's fine. Hit us up on the next one when we talk about something else. But this is what we're talking about today. I don't want it tied into anything else. I mean, it does tie into the bigger picture because we're going to talk about
I'm still going to bring it up.
The stuff that was injected into this show that make no sense.
Oh, you'll see where I go. You'll see. It's going to happen.
All right. Don't turn this into like, oh, we're going to like criticizing me the entire show. I'm
criticizing you now. Getting it out of the way.
Okay, don't
cleaning
put that
the
into
slate.
The whole show.
Cleaning the slate. I won't put it into the whole show.
Okay. Because I need you. Because I know that you also are feeling the same way I do.
Yeah, of course. But some people, the reason I do this, like you could think of a show like Pens or Socks. It's like if someone looks at that and says, ugh. If they listen, there's still enough content there for them to relate. Like, oh, yeah, okay. They can get into the show. But if you haven't watched any of this, if you have zero interest in any of this new series, then you're going to get zero.
Great. So they don't listen to it. And the people that are watching it will listen.
No, but what I'm saying is...
yeah.
No, what I'm saying is there's a way to give those people something that makes it worthwhile listening. That's what I'm promising. It'll be a conversation that ventures into a bigger picture without derailing Autumn's desire to critique and criticize the new Sex in the City show.
We just need to break it down, and I need to express myself, and I need to express myself with someone like you who also, like I said, is feeling the same way I am.
Well, we could start a separate podcast where the straight man and the woman talk about the Sex in the City reboot, because I am very popular on the And Just Like That subreddit. I'm getting karma galore. Upvotes. Well,
maybe you should post
ass.
this episode on there on that thing.
Nah, that's too obvious.
No, you can say like, "Hey, I heard this great discussion about it."
Oh yeah, after I just said that I post on there.
Oh shit.
And I'm not editing this.
Ruined it.
So if somebody else posts it, then fine. But I'm not going to post it. So if somebody does post it, and if anyone's listening to this episode because you saw it posted on Reddit, I assure you that I wasn't the one who did it. I would never be so shameless. I really wouldn't. It's gross to me.
I know you wouldn't.
So if somebody else did it, like you, fine.
I won't do it.
But I won't compromise my integrity and status on that subreddit.
Right.
Where I'm beloved. People, man. I had a wonderful post
Beloved.
about Sex in the City 2 being a fever dream. No, it
Let's talk
was
about
a trip.
Let's talk about it.
I said it was a shrooms trip, not a fever dream.
Oh, same.
I said Carrie was tripping on shrooms and was taking a pee and forgot where she was and sat on the toilet for the exact runtime of the movie, which I think was 2 hours and 16 minutes or something.
I mean, I would accept that over what actually happened.
And then that the peak of her trip was, what the fuck?
Wow.
My God. Oh, getting alerts.
Weird.
Ellie almost
never
got
have
hit by
my
a
phone
car.
on
She's fine.
sound.
Yeah, Ellie almost got hit by a car. She's fine, but the driver yelled at her, and then it gets in your head.
Wow, what the fuck? All right, finish your sentence.
And that's all.
That was shitty.
That's why we can't have our phones on. I get texts like that.
It wasn't a text.
I get a text. The bakery's out of key lime pie. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, my brain's not here for the show. Or the family downstairs is doing laundry again. They do laundry constantly. Can't get our clothes washed. Oh, God, I'm not in the show now.
Yeah, but do you know me?
I know that you can be taken
I'm
out of
water.
things. That's not true.
Sometimes.
I don't know what you mean by that.
That I'm a little bit more flexible on things changing or things being different.
No way. You can be taken out of something like that.
Not with something silly.
Well, I mean, your daughter almost being hit by a car is not too silly.
Yeah, that was fucked up for you to say.
I said almost. I didn't. I said no, and then
My phone's never on a sound. I don't know why it was just now. It must have been I must have hit it accidentally because I never have my sound on.
All right, we'll get into it. I promise.
Well,
I promise
I'm real
you.
thrown off now because all you've done is freak me out.
I couldn't help myself.
I was so excited to talk about this, and now I don't feel confident that you're going to be there.
I'll be there.
So I am not excited anymore. And just like that, you lost me. Welcome to One Topic. I don't know what happened.
I don't either because nothing was said.
Nothing. I just stumbled. It just stumbled out of my mouth. Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
My name is Greg Russ. You just find the laughter in life. That's a sign for your wall. Laughter in life.
Oh.
Laughter lives here.
Laughter lives here.
Ain't gonna laugh. Get the hell out of my home.
That's right. In this house, we laugh hard, we eat
And
rough,
we fuck.
and we
Dirty.
fuck.
Wet.
Hot Miami fucking.
That sounds disgusting.
Sweaty, dripping.
If I lived in Miami, I would never have sex.
Ugh.
I would not do it.
I do not understand the people that love hot weather. Those people are from another planet.
Well, we're all going to be enjoying hot weather because the climate has
We all
changed.
going to be?
That's what, yeah. I mean, when's the last time you had a good winter? Think about that. Can't answer.
No, maybe 4 years ago.
I hear childhood stories of people who grew up in this area, this New York City tri-state area, and the winters they talked about were horrendous. These were insane surges of snow that buried people in their homes for days upon days. Nothing like that happens anymore.
Well, it's because the earth is changing.
It has.
Mm-hmm.
Things.
We're spinning through space.
Well, I mean,
it's not like the sun is sitting still. You know what I mean?
Whatever you want to say the reasons are, that's besides the point. You'd be hard pressed to say that things haven't warmed up.
Yeah.
Like I'm dreading going to Atlanta for Christmas because I'm worried it's going to be 70 degrees. How gross. There was a 70 degree. There's been several 70-degree Christmases. Then there was that weird anomaly, probably in 2010, where it did snow. It snowed.
It snowed a little bit. I remember that.
It was nice. Mm-hmm. What an enjoyable time.
I mean, even where we live, I think it's still going to be warm on Christmas Day. Isn't it going to be like 60s?
Probably. Yeah, I think I was glancing ahead. Annoying. That seems about right. You know, that Corona Christmas commercial that people love because it's been on for decades where the
palm tree thing?
It's like, ew. I would never want to spend Christmas. Like, that's appealing to some people. I want to be there on the lagoon, the tropical lagoon, and light my palm tree with Christmas lights and whistle a Christmas tune and have my Corona. They've recovered all right from that Corona. I guess because most people moved away from calling it Corona and called it COVID.
Why is it called Corona?
Because it's a coronavirus, which is the common cold virus. It's just a variation of that. What's the
difference between that and like rhinovirus?
I thought
rhinovirus was the cold one.
Maybe that's a coronavirus in itself. And the rhino means nose, right?
Right.
You want to do some quick research so we don't sound like idiots. It's the main culprit behind the common cold. Rhinovirus is coronavirus. Let's see. Whatever. It says rhinoviruses and coronaviruses are recognized as the major causes of the common cold syndrome. So they may be different, but they're both major causes. But the point is, Corona, they did fine. They're kind of back, and Delta, the same. I'm glad.
Oh, yeah.
I bet they're glad that it's moved on to Omicron. Omicron. I used to think it was
Omicron.
I thought it was pronounced.
Hallelujah.
Well, what's the casualty of the Omicron, as I've always pronounced it, which I think is incorrect, but I don't care at this point, is my made-up fraternity. When I went to college, on my floor in the dorms at Georgia State, they had a board that had a construction paper tree, and each leaf on the tree was a different sorority or fraternity. And I created one, Phi Omicron Xi, and I put it up there. I added a leaf. I was the only member. I was the only member of the fraternity. Nobody else was allowed to rush.
It's so exclusive.
It is. The best fraternity.
People were dying to be a part of that one.
Man, fuck all that. I was friends with people my freshman year, and then they were joining a fraternity. And I kept hanging out with a couple of them. And then, as you're hanging out with them, more guys start to show up. And then you get to know them. And then at some point you go to dinner. Like, we're going to put a bid on you. We'd like you to rush. And I said a bid, like an old piece of furniture at an auction. No, I don't want to do that. And then they all stopped talking to me.
Really?
Yeah, because I rejected them. People don't like rejection.
Well, that's fine. I mean, rejection is painful and people avoid pain. But
how dare you?
It seems weird to put a lot of stock into someone not joining your fraternity as some huge slap in the face,
You besmirch the good name of Phi Omicron Xi. You're a nobody, Phi Omicron Xi.
If you're not going to hang out with us in this very structured, specific environment, then we're not going to hang out with you at all.
Your first challenge is to bang 6 chicks in 1 hour.
What are some of the things that you have to do?
I don't know. I never joined. I don't know. All I know is that my roommate from freshman year decided to then try to join that fraternity sophomore year. And he showed up, came back to the dorms with covered in dirt. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I was digging. They had me digging all day. And I don't know why or where, because we were in Atlanta. I don't know what the fuck was going on. He didn't make it.
He didn't?
No, I think maybe he did make it. I don't know. The moment he started rushing, I was done. It's like, oh, come on.
They didn't dig him?
I also caught him jerking it once. I pretended that I didn't see.
Oh, how did you catch him? You had your ear to the door and you opened the door a little bit?
No, I didn't. I mean, yeah, I wanted to catch him.
Yeah.
In the Georgia State dorms, which was the Olympic Village, we each had our own bedrooms. And then there was a common area. But, and 2 bathrooms, four bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. So, this guy was on my side. We shared a bathroom. And I don't know. I was in my room and I decided to go in his room and see what he's doing. And I just burst through the door and his pants weren't completely down. I think he just had it out.
Oh.
He had whipped it out. And then I could tell he's like, oh, and he made a noise and he curled up in a ball and like, tucked in his hips. Pulled them back. And I didn't see anything, but I was like, oh, and I just went and looked out the window. I was like, oh, a lot of traffic because you could see 7585 connector.
Oh, so you like followed through.
Well, I was already in the room and I want to make him feel worse. So I played dumb. And I was like, oh yeah, look at that. All right, I'm going to have to go check on something. He was like, obviously the visit wasn't like, that wasn't, nobody.
Yeah, you didn't go in his room to like talk about the traffic.
Oops. So that was that.
I've never been caught masturbating.
Yeah, neither have I.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a good thing.
Because I do it under the covers at night. Because I'm a lady.
Anyway, we have to get into your topic.
Yay!
Subject matter at hand, which, look, it's your forum. I'm going to turn it over to you. I know that you want to shit on the new Sex and the City story.
Mm-hmm.
And just like that. Even though we just did an episode on Sex and the City recently, which was a point of contention in the middle of the show. And I told you I wasn't going to go there, and I'm not going to go there. I'm just saying that we did that one, and it didn't go so well because you wanted me to just talk about clips from the show and things with the show with you. And I didn't. So I'm turning it over to you. I'm letting loose.
Okay.
I'm letting go, if that's possible.
You're letting go, but then you also have to let go and talk about this with me.
I'll talk about it with you.
Because you have things to say too.
I have things to say. Look, I've watched the 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit it. And as I've already mentioned in the pre-show, I went to the subreddit and I've been posting in there.
And you're like a hit.
I'm getting good reactions because people like what I have to say.
Yeah, good.
It's a strange thing that I'm watching it because it's moved so far away from what the show was in that first season.
Absolutely. It's not strange that you're watching it. I mean, you've seen all of the Sex and the City incarnations.
I have.
So it's not crazy that you would watch the new thing. It's just crazy how bad it is.
I will say, though, I'm surprised, and I always knew this was a thing, but it never appealed to me. But people really did watch that show. Maybe not just for the fashion, but that added to it. Like, people love the fucking fashion. I have never thought about it, other than like critiquing it sometimes. Like, that was a dumb outfit. But, in watching the show, I wonder like how differently my viewing experience has been than others because I'm not looking for those things. And what lured me into it, if it wasn't set in New York, I guarantee I wouldn't have cared. If it was San Francisco, I was like, fuck this. Who cares?
Well, that's fine because New York is,
it's the fifth lady.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah, and I think that's the appeal. That was the main appeal. Like, it worked on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to live that Sex and the City life ever since. I love going out to restaurants, as you know. I love eating out.
Cosmopolitans, going to new clubs.
Mm-hmm. Keeping up with the latest
hottest new place.
Trends.
Yeah, trends. Really expensive shoes.
That's me. I mean, I did buy a pair of $300 boots. So there you go. Anyway, So I'll let you kick it off. You can just tell me what's going on.
Well, it's just so extremely disappointing. I would include something like this in a more broad topic if it wasn't just so egregiously bad. And I think that a lot of people are, if they're watching it and have always watched Sex and the City, I think everyone's having a collective experience of just being so disappointed. And it's I think you might have said it last week or something, but it's just such a betrayal. Everybody's character is except for Carrie. I guess Carrie's kind of the same.
Yes.
But everybody acting like they've never been, like they're all starting over.
Well, one, let me say, should I be ashamed that I watched this show? No, I'm not ashamed. Suck it. Shove it up your ass. I am a fan.
Who are you talking to?
an imaginary person who's
Okay.
critiquing me for liking a show that's less than high art.
Right.
Yeah, this isn't a real person. It's an imaginary person that suddenly started
Okay.
speaking on my shoulders like, you loser, you watch this show.
Yeah.
The way I was going to tie it into a bigger picture, and I promise we can talk about the show. But for anyone who's not interested in the show, I think at least parallels can be drawn to something that's happening across the board with, this isn't a reboot. This is a sequel, a continuation. So
It's a continuation of what I would assume is the television series.
Yeah,
not like the movies.
Well, it has more of the movie feel in a weird way.
Oof, it really does, just because it's so bad.
Well, it was shot, especially in its early years, as sitcom, more of a sitcom style. There was single camera. I think maybe it was multi-camera. But the pacing and the framing, like, it's much more cinematic now.
Well, and the music.
And melodramatic.
So melodramatic.
Than it used to be. And those comedy beats are gone and they feel forced. But I was going to say anything that's a reboot or continuation of something that you've liked in the past, since that is a trend of nothing new is worthwhile, everything old is new again. And this is a problem. And I think this, and just like that, is the best example of it, and most egregious example of it, where, like you said, it's a continuation of a story, but it's trying to be relevant and timely. And, part of that's the critique of the original show, that it wasn't diverse and it wasn't realistic and these women were privileged and all that. And people do forget at the time, Sex and the City was a pretty progressive show and what it was pushing. But yeah, all those criticisms of it seem to be, they're trying to make up for it now, and it doesn't fit, and it's not true to the characters. So if you think about who these characters were for so long, they're not acting like themselves. Even as people change over the decades and years, this is not how they would have evolved. It's like, this makes no sense. It's not realistic. So it's very jarring is the problem.
I think the biggest character change is Miranda. They're making her ride the subway, which, as a wealthy female lawyer in New York City,
this is your biggest gripe.
Huh?
Like, this is your biggest gripe.
Well,
she's riding the subway. Go ahead.
It's on top of everything else.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, not only is she acting so strangely, she's also like, there's no way this woman is riding the subway. I've never seen any of them ride a subway, I don't think, in the entire series.
That was the one thing, we were just talking about it being about New York, but it never featured the subway.
Which is fine.
I mean, it's a big part of the culture.
If anybody's going to ride the subway, it's going to be Carrie.
Yeah, but even when she was broke, she wouldn't do it. I mean, that was the thing. Right. When, spoiler alert, Big died.
And just like that.
And she was going through his wallet. There was a Metro card. I was like, yeah, right. That dude, when's the last time he was on a train?
He has a driver. What about Raul?
When's the last time that guy was on a subway?
Yeah, he does. Exactly. See, that's what I'm talking about. It's like the writers of these episodes never watched the series.
No, but you're wrong. See, the guy who wrote it is that Michael Patrick, King. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Who is like one of the creators of the show, right?
Yeah.
Or he's a producer, at least, of the show, and maybe not the creator, but and he was directing, and he's been writing these episodes. So that's why, to me, as a person who's been with the series forever, it's just these criticisms have gotten to him, and he's fucking forcing shit that's not real to prove something to, just as I was trying to prove something to that imaginary person who was, ribbing me for being a person who watches Sex and the City. It feels like that, though there is real repercussions that can come from it, where, you're creating a new show, and if online turns against it, watch out. So I guess
there's no way you can't turn against it. It's just so strange. And okay, even if you're not bothered by the main characters and how they're acting, not acting as in performing, but just like how they're how they're portraying this character that we've known for decades. I just want to point out, like, when Big died, the amount of time that she was standing there looking at him and that he was looking at her and was like still alive. It was such I don't know if that was editing or if that was bad direction, because like I kept thinking he was sitting there and then he is like, and he's dead. Oh, but wait, no, he just looked at her again. Like he said something or he moved his arm. And like, even when she was like cradling him by the shower, he still was like moving.
The
you know
excuse
what I mean? I was
for
like,
that.
wait, I was like, oh, they're not gonna, like, I kept thinking, oh, okay, when they were doing the cutting back and forth between the piano performance and his death scene, or him getting the heart attack, I kept thinking, oh, they're gonna kill him. All right, Big's dying. And then once you got to the part where Big actually was dying, it didn't seem like he was dying. You know, I was like, oh, they're not gonna kill him.
Michael Patrick King has an answer for you, Autumn.
What?
That moment in time wasn't that long. It was presented that way because it felt very long to Carrie, but really was just a second. It was a second, and she had no time to even attempt to save him. That's actually what was said, which
wow.
It was an artistic choice to present it as a long time, but it wasn't.
Well, it was confusing.
Yes, it was ridiculous, and I think that was an excuse made up after the fact. A poor execution. You want to drive the story. You have an idea of where you want the story to go. You have this character. You have to get this character out of the way. If you want them to die, just have them die. To have it play out like that, like to not be aware enough. Like it seems stupid, but the reaction. This is the problem overall, and this is what people. I think the problem that people have. This is a small moment, and not a small thing in the sense that if somebody's dying in your life, that's a small thing, but as far as driving the narrative of the show, people know how people would react. And anyone who ran into a room and found someone that they love dying, maybe shock does set in, but I think we've all been trained that the first thing you do is you go call 911. Like that is your shocked reaction, I think, is you go do that. And the phone was sitting right there. And the fact that she didn't do that, it's like, what the fuck? And that's representative of overall what's happening with this fucking show, because you're talking about Miranda and you bring up the subway, which I think is funny because while that's true, like there are things about this woman who's always been highly independent and sure of who she is as a person and struggled with being who she is and finding her way in the world, but never seemed willing to let go of who she is.
Right. Like struggled with the fact that she was this person in the world, not that she was struggling with like who she was.
Is now a bumbling fucking fool idea how to exist. Like it's like
she's never interacted with black people before.
Yeah, this is not realistic because no matter how the world has changed, there's been years that have gone by from the movie to now, and the world has changed with social movements. I do think overall this is probably the death of wokeness, and we can get into that.
Oh, God. Maybe that's the good thing that will come out of this series.
I think because it's been hijacked now to the point where it's like now being presented in this way, where it's so heavy-handed and, convenient. Like for purposes, again, I think there are ulterior motives in presenting this. There's no real care about these issues. It's just like, look, see, I'm a good person now, and our series is a good person. But having, the world changed around these characters since the last time we saw them, but they weren't fucking frozen in ice. They weren't just dropped into the world and now are figuring out how to live in it, which is the way it's being presented. It happened over years. They would have evolved over years and figured out their way and the way they fit in. And even if they struggled, it wouldn't be this shocking, this jarring. And that's the thing. It's like Miranda's like, well, maybe I'm a lesbian now. Now I have a drinking problem. And the drinking problem is a real, like, anyone can develop that. That's maybe the most
That's an
realistic.
Interesting way for it to go. Miranda is dealing with a lot, right? She doesn't have to also represent an idiot who doesn't know how to move through the world. Like you said, she hasn't been frozen in ice. She was working at a prestigious law firm, I'm sure around
and made choices to quit
African American attorneys and
made choices to quit that law firm. Is like, okay, that's a scary thing, but I'm quitting it. I'm going to go figure something else out. So it's like,
and so go do that and be the smart, like Miranda that we've always seen. You don't have to be this idiot. And then we could focus on the things like her drinking problem and her issues with her son and the fact apparently like she and Steve aren't having sex for like 3 years. Like,
which is insane.
Fuck?
No discussions have been had over that. You haven't had sex in years and nobody's talked about it.
We just have our yogurt at night. Like,
it's not realistic. It's not. And none of this is true to the characters. And things are convenient. Like with Charlotte's daughter, Rose, suddenly saying that she doesn't feel like a girl. Fine. If that's real, that happens. And I think they actually explored that in an interesting way, where she talked to her friend, whose name is slipping my mind, her gay friend, Charlotte's.
Oh, Anthony.
Yeah, he's like, whatever, she's figuring stuff out. Maybe she thinks this, maybe it's
Love
real.
Anthony.
He's like, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. And I think, just being supportive and allowing your kid to go through
I like that was presented by a gay character.
Yeah, and that's a nice thing. But because, overall, it's just convenient. It's like, oh, okay, wow, we get Charlotte's daughter feeling this way, plopping it right in front of our face. It's like, it just feels a little too on the nose.
Yeah, like not only is she dealing with that, Miranda's dealing with that, and Carrie is dealing with that, right? Because she's with that Shay person.
Carrie, yeah. Yeah, doing
so
the
like
podcast.
Every single character is bombarded with gender bending issues. I don't think so. Hey, Sex and the City. Let's focus on one thing. You know what I mean? For each character and have little A, B, C storylines. Or just one episode be like a couple A, B and a half storylines. You know what I mean? We don't have to. You can make it like the series. There were some continuations through the series, right? Like relationships and stuff like that, but it wasn't like what this feels like is that they were making, I don't know, like a 6-hour movie, right? And then decided to break it up. And we're not even like, we're dealing with like this, we're barely able to sort of feel any of the plot or the characters being at like a low point because there is no build up of where the characters are doing well. Do you know what I mean? It's just like started almost instantly as like, meh.
Well, the low points, there are no stakes, and the low points don't feel earned. They just feel written in. It's like Steve's deaf now and not attentive to the relationship. And like out of all the dudes in that show, Harry was too, Charlotte's husband, but it's like he was one of the guys who was clearly in love with Miranda and with his wife, and was attentive to it and wouldn't let things fall apart like this. So it's like, it's not true to the characters. And that's why nobody fucking cares. That's why you don't actually feel anything. And there's resentment. There's a bit of resentment that grows. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you invest so much time watching a show for years, and then you watch some shitty fucking movies, and then it comes back, and it's a slap in the face. And as I said earlier, this happens, I think, across the board with, obviously some shows do better than others if it's a continuation and revisiting old characters. A reboot's a different thing because you're resetting the story. But I think a lot of these things suffer with trying to fit in the current political and social climate and going so far overboard with it. So there are two things at play because there is that element of it. But if we strip that out, this could still be written. And I feel like it would be written because we're talking about things that aren't necessarily political and social. Just like the not having sex for 3 years and they never had one conversation about it or tried to fix it. Like that's removed from this bigger picture. And that's not realistic either. It's like, we know the fucking characters, you betrayed us, yet we're still fucking watching it too. You're going to watch the whole fucking season and you know it.
I am because I want to hate it.
So it's a hate watch
kind of interesting. Now it's kind of interesting to see what they're doing. Like, holy shit, I can't believe they're doing this. There were things that didn't make sense, in like the first, well, I'm sure within the series, which is a little bit easier to forgive because it's TV, but the movie, where, she never responds to any call or whatever from Big for however long she
What I
went
mean, you
after the
spend
wedding.
years in this tumultuous relationship with the person,
Yeah.
and then you finally get to the point where you're going to marry them, and whatever happens, they don't show up on the wedding day, but you don't talk to them again. It's like that's
Right. Ever.
and that's a convenient thing that a lot of rom-coms use anyway. It's like a problem happens,
Right.
and the people would decide we're just not going to talk. We're not going to talk, and
But
then
again,
that creates
that was earned by the whole beginning of the movie. And there were a lot of problems with that movie, like the dancing in the closet scenes, like where they're all like that's so cheesy and stupid. And like what a trope, right? But the rest of
filler too. Yeah,
filler,
cheap
yeah.
nostalgia set to some old Aerosmith Run DMC tune.
Ugh. So, but I felt like
Montage.
stuff like that can be forgiven because of the build up to that point. Right? We've had everybody was doing the same thing. Like again, we weren't so betrayed. And I'm just going to jump to this because it really was shocking how much of that comedy scene we saw of that Che comedian person.
Yeah.
Wow. What is happening? Like, why is she so built into this show? She says like the most ridiculous, like not out of character because we don't really
but
know
out
her.
of context and what a comedy show would be. Like that wasn't a comedy show. That was I'm up on a soapbox and I'm preaching. And again, I think
even during the podcast when they were doing like she says these things that are just out of character for any human to be saying in that moment.
Yeah, none of it's real, even as a character that we don't know from before. It doesn't sit as authentic. You watch it, you're like, nobody would really act like this.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest problem with it overall. It's looking to score social points.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem. And then just the betrayal of the characters, which is huge, which is funny to say that that's the second biggest problem, to betray your characters that you've had existing for, a few decades now is the second biggest problem. But it is overshadowed by this need to just present, hey, look, I'm righting all the wrongs that were done with the first series.
Yeah.
We're in tune. We get it. We're on the right side. And, as I said earlier, I do think like the death of wokeness at least exists now. Because as happens with anything, any kind of movement, any kind of creativity, it starts out organically. And then as it grows, at some point it becomes hijacked by capitalism, packaged and sold. And we're at the point where, cynicism for even non-cynical people is going to start to kick in. Where it's like, okay, fine. Now, the new Sex and the City series, which I was looking forward to, which probably attracts a lot of the people who would side with beliefs of, quote, wokeness. Even they feel like, what the fuck? So I think that it's turning people off. And it's probably the beginning of the end. Because here we are, it's being rammed down our throats, sold to us. It's around every corner. And you know that ultimately the motives behind it aren't pure. So, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry, that breath.
I know.
it just makes me uncomfortable.
I know there's
about
exasperation and getting to, the way they explained Samantha's lack of presence. It's not true to the character. The character, because it was summed up in she was Carrie's publicist. Carrie said, I don't want you to be my publicist anymore. That offended her. And then Carrie made the comment about, I didn't know that I was her ATM, like tying it into money. Like Samantha never fucking cared about money. She had money. She never put money first. It wouldn't destroy a relationship between friends. Like there's the obvious behind the scenes stuff where Kim Cattrall didn't like Sarah Jessica Parker. And, that's fine. But make it more realistic as to why the character isn't on the show. It's like that doesn't seem like something that she would do. She wouldn't be so angry that she was fired as a publicist and lost out on some money that she would leave New York, a city that she loves.
How much was Carrie giving her to be her publicist?
I know,
it couldn't have been that much compared to all the stuff that Samantha had going on in New York.
Exactly. She probably even need the money. So that doesn't feel...
She was doing her a favor, if anything, I'm sure.
It doesn't feel real either.
Yeah, so even a character who's not on the goddamn show isn't accurate.
No, and, again, Charlotte struggling to understand the new world that she finds herself in. It's just, you're not Encino Man. You've been around. This isn't a shock to you. So stop acting
if anybody
so
was
ditzy about it.
Yeah, you know what? If anybody was going to struggle with something like that, it should have been Charlotte.
You can struggle, but it's I'm struggling with this, not what is this? So out of touch with it. And
right.
clueless.
So what they could have done instead, right, is Charlotte is dealing with the gender stuff, right? She's dealing with all that. Let her interact with Shay, the comedian.
Yeah, but
right?
we got to get to this point where Miranda possibly is questioning her sexuality, and you go ahead. I don't want you. I'll hold my thought on that.
Well, I don't care what the writers are doing. They're doing it wrong. What I would like to do is correct it and still sort of weave in this wokeness if they'd like to, right? I think that Charlotte should be the one who's dealing with the gender stuff because she is a little bit sort of like Pollyanna, sort of things should be a certain way and she doesn't like for things to be sort of messy, emotionally or whatever. So I think that her dealing with her daughter, and her gender expression, I think that would be the way to go. I think that Miranda should be dealing with a change in career at a later time in her life and how that might be affecting her marriage or how she's not keeping tabs on Brady as much as she should. And so he's kind of like losing his way a little bit, not to be some weird sex fiend, which by the way, that kid is under 18. So why are we watching him have sex?
Well, the age of consent in New York's 17. So if he's 17, it's fine.
Well, I fucking hope he's 17 because otherwise I don't want to hear about your child having sex.
She could drink at that point. You could at that point it'd be realistic to then cope by drinking.
Right. And so now she's drinking and she's,
I think
I get it.
Like this is where I'm going to jump in with where they seem to be going is she's going to question her sexuality.
Right.
Which again, Miranda as a person, if she was bisexual, if she thought maybe she was a lesbian, this is something she would have explored years ago, despite it being a time
she was single.
Yeah. And because she was self-aware enough and progressive enough to say, this is who I am. So
yeah, she was never uptight like that.
No, so she would have
uptight in such a way like she would never be able to admit to herself that she's a lesbian.
Exactly. And if she wasn't willing to admit that she was a lesbian, she wasn't the kind of person who would have then pursued men still and had a sham marriage with a kid. I know the kid was an accident, but she wouldn't have done that because she would have never been able to put up with it. So we can't say that that's all sham up to this point. And if she's just exploring it because she's bored, that's kind of fucked up because it's saying when you're bored, you can just go use gay people and non-binary people as your playground to figure out, who you are.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So it's like, that's fucked up also. Even if it does go, I was just bored and I was confused. But it's like being confused about your sexuality when you're 55. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I don't know. I can't say for sure that there's never, but I assume
it's character.
So it's not fitting there. And then I think if you want to talk about Carrie, she has actually been true to form.
Yeah, she's pretty consistent so far.
Yeah, pretty still a prude in a sense. Like why the fuck she on that podcast? I don't know because as they've made clear, she's not comfortable talking about those things, but she never has been. Like she's always been, I'm not talking about it. I'm not getting graphic. That's true to who she is. She just wouldn't be on that podcast. She's been selfish and occupied with projecting an image of her life as she wants it to be. And that's
Wait, what do you mean? Why is she being selfish?
She's always selfish. She's always self-centered and thinks about herself.
How is she being selfish in this new series?
Well, I think when she returned to her insanity in episode 3 and
About Natasha.
couldn't take a no for an answer. Like, this person clearly doesn't want to talk to you, but it's like, oh, who cares? I'm not going to respect their wishes because I'm feeling insecure. And when I feel insecure, it's time for me to fucking get what I want.
Oh, that's a great point.
It's like just blowing through everyone else. It doesn't matter what they want or need. It's like, I need to know now. I'm the most important. Sometimes you're not going to get what you need to feel comfortable.
She's like jealous of a dog.
Yeah, so there's that's normal. That's something that she's been throughout the series. And when Big died and she was acting all stoic, it was very similar to the movie when he didn't show up and she's like, I'm just gonna sit here stoically, and then if you try to talk to me, I'm gonna tell you to shut up. And she was true to form there. So I guess if anything, she's at least.
I liked her reaction in the first movie. I felt that was
I'm not
really
saying that's
accurate.
I'm not saying that's wrong.
But yeah, this was. Oh, and when, excuse me, and when before Big died, and they were like listening to music, and they played that one song. I forget what it was now. Some like 70s like smooth rock kind of thing. That is not the song that Big would want at his funeral. He would want something really lame like Moon River, because that's what he was listening to. Remember when
Billy Joel,
he was like
New York State of Mind?
Billy Joel. Yeah, something way more cheesy than that. That was just happened to be like the last moment, I guess, that she felt happy with him or something. But it's not about the last thing you experienced with the person. It's about the person as a whole. So again, we're only experiencing Big in this very last dying moment, and that's the only reference that we get to him.
Yeah, there's a lot of betrayal. That's a strong word. Like, do I care ultimately? Is my life being affected? Am I walking around moping? No. But in that, I think that creators, especially of a long-running series, it's weird to say they owe the audience something, but if you're
going to make it, then you have to
the people you have to respect the people who've stuck with you all this time. It doesn't mean pander to them and give them what they want because you're the creator, but there are ways to handle all the things that they want to handle, but to do it in a way that makes sense, that feels real, and it just doesn't feel real now. And I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but I hear that's similar to the last season because the books weren't written and the other writers jumped in and characters were doing things like this doesn't make sense. Like there was no lead up to this, there was no glimpse into this happening, and then things just happened. And I think that's why people didn't like it, right? You watched it.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it didn't make sense. The things like people's decisions, whether they were right or wrong, made sense for that person. And then at some point they were just doing things just for the sake of the story. And it didn't make sense for that person to be doing that.
Yeah. And that stuff comes off. That audiences aren't dumb. Even the dumbest of the dumb, somewhere inside, if you can't articulate it, feel it. Motivations don't match characters that you've gotten to know. It's like, I don't understand this. And I think, people do praise Breaking Bad, and I think rightly so. And even if it's old at this point, the amount of praise it's gotten and prestige that's been assigned to it, it's because it took everything that it presented seriously and made sure that it worked. And if something was presented early on, it would come back, or a character's motivations would make sense. And, it was true to everything it ever had shown an audience.
Like I hated Skylar on that show, but I understood why she made decisions.
I don't know why you hated her. Like, I don't know. She gets a bad rap.
So annoying.
Why? Because she didn't let Walt run around and do his fucking thing.
No,
always getting in the way.
Fine. No. I just didn't like her as an actress who was so Walt. It's just like, I just didn't like her voice. I didn't like how she portrayed that character, which is fine. That's just my opinion. I was just annoyed by Skylar. Like, shut up, Skylar. Even if I'm on her side. It's just annoyed by her in general. But that's what I'm saying. So like, even though I'm annoyed by her, I still was like, yeah, this makes sense for Skylar. Like she would do this, we've been with her for this long.
And maybe
she's going through a lot. I understand why she would like sleep with that dude, and then there's a reason why, she's with Walt to begin with, because Walt didn't, there must have been stuff like this for Walter before. Like he had this side of him. And so, she does like betray uh who she thinks she is, but we kind of know who she, I don't know. Anyway, I just, it makes sense. There's too many things in this show that take you out of it because it doesn't feel authentic, whether it's the way that the character is behaving or if it's just the writing in general. Like I really feel like they're messing up that Shay person.
Well, they've just made Shay an embodiment of all of the wokeness that they need to push forward.
But it's just done so clunkily. It's done very clunkily. Clunkulosity.
Yeah, I mean, there's no justification when She's
just too clever. Do you know what I mean? Like she would never. There's no person that just speaks this way. Like has a funny little response and like, oh, you're misogynistic gender expression. Like people don't talk like that.
No, and to present the character as someone who would give an underage kid pot and not care about it. Like I know Miranda's reaction in that scene where she saw
that was also too much.
But it's like that's a proper reaction for a parent, and to be like whatever. It's like come on. I feel as though if I was.
I mean, she did apologize to her, right?
I don't remember the full apology.
Yeah, Shay eventually goes back. He's like, "Yo, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
I
then
just don't think about pot being, a drug or whatever."
Yeah, but then then Miranda reverting to a bumbling idiot. Oh, you're the host. You can teach me things about this new world, and you're very exciting. Like, okay.
Yeah.
No, you've lost all respect for me.
Yes.
From me, not for me.
Okay, so like
everyone else has lost their respect for me a long time ago.
Carrie could still be, I think, if we were to fix this, like I said, Charlotte should be the one dealing with the gender issues. Miranda should be dealing with a huge change of life at, in her 50s, and a son that, might be like veering off in the wrong direction because she's preoccupied and her marriage is suffering and whatever. Like that's fine. Let's deal with all that. And then Carrie could be, figuring out how to live, without Big, doing whatever Carrie does.
But this is the thing. Remember how people said the first season or the first series should have ended with her picking nobody. She should have just said, fuck it. I don't need a dude. I'm independent and can live on my own. I feel like that's why Big's dead now. It's like, oh, yeah, maybe that's the way we should have ended it. And now she can. And she better not fucking run to Aiden. I swear to God.
Oh, no. They won't do that, will they?
I hear that he's in it. So.
For real?
Yeah, the rumors early on that he was in it. He's in the series.
Where's Petrovsky?
He's probably dead by now.
Go back to Petrovsky.
No, that guy's like 88 now. Isn't he?
Probably. Alexander Petrovsky.
I'll get his age for you.
Mikhail Gorbachev or whatever his name is.
Yes. Gorbachev.
Wait, Gorbachev isn't that some Russian leader's name?
Yes.
That's Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Yes. So let's see how old he is. I apologize. He's only 73.
Oh, well, still. Oh, wait,
why is Gene Kelly trending, by the way? So I looked him up and obviously dancing, Mikhail. Right. And then underneath it says, people also search for Gene Kelly. And it says trending. So why is Gene Kelly currently trending? Maybe Gene Kelly's daughter recalls.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. There's things from weeks ago. I don't know why Gene Kelly's trending. Anyway.
Weird.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we can't end the show without talking about Charlotte's plastic surgery.
Yeah, but I know, but I feel I don't feel so good about shitting on it. Like it's strange because what I've heard is like all of the women are getting shit about their looks, and like they've aged, and it is always been a struggle with women aging and not being able to age, not allowed to age, which is, as we've talked about before with plastic surgery and stuff, why women feel a need to have plastic surgery in the first place. And I also saw that I can't remember the actress's name who plays Charlotte.
I don't. Yeah. I don't remember.
Damn, she's this famous. We can't even remember her name.
Cynthia Nixon, Sarah Jessica Parker. Uh, fuck.
You're letting me down. Kristen
I don't know.
Davis.
Kristen Davis.
But I read something with her. Like apparently she's really hurt that all the people are shitting on her looks. Which think about being the person, and then suddenly you're back on TV and everyone's just focused on the way you look. Yes, it looks. It's not good. Like her plastic surgery, like when she cries and emotes, and she's the most emotional character on the show. So when she's expressing it's not.
It doesn't look right.
No, it doesn't. But it is what it is. She had the surgery, and I don't feel a need to like shit all over it, even though it is a thing that people are noticing. So we can speak to it. That's like,
all right. Well, I don't want to shit on it either then.
well, it's like it's there and everyone's thinking it.
I think it's more, listen, like I don't like, Cynthia Nixon, right? Like she looks older. She looks her age. It's fine. Even Sarah Jessica Parker looks older. But she looks like her face still makes sense. And I'm sorry. I think I have Omicron. Omicron.
Omicron.
Yeah, Omari. Oreocron. Oreocrum. Sorry. Okay, I just this looking, it doesn't make sense. And also Stanford and I forgot his name now. Anthony they should have just proceeded into this show like the second movie never happened. Because in what universe would they have gotten together?
No universe. That was another thing. Yeah, just do it. Let's just put them together.
God, and that Liza Minnelli scene just makes me...
That's what I wrote. That was one of my top posts on the... And just like that subreddit was that I was saying earlier that the second movie, Carrie was tripping on mushrooms. She went to the bathroom to pee. She forgot where she was. She sat there for the total run length of the movie and hallucinated all of it. And the height of her trip was the wedding and Lawrence of My Labia. Those two parts of the movie were the high, like the peak of her trip.
You know what they should have done? They should have had her waking up like from the end of the first movie. They should have had her
a dream
up,
retcon the whole
out of a
thing.
Dream. What's that?
I said you just retcon the whole thing.
Just get rid of it. Have her wake up, like coming back from the courthouse. It doesn't matter if she's, if they're older. We get it. We understand. We know what's going on. She comes back from the courthouse in her vintage white suit made by nobody or whatever, and they can, I don't know, we'll explain Samantha away somehow, but we don't need to pretend that the second movie actually happened.
It is interesting that they didn't just have Samantha die, like, because she did have cancer, and I know that she was in remission, but it could have been realistic. But it's
have Samantha die, and just like that, Samantha died. Great.
Yes, wonderful. But
she died of complications of coronavirus, and we didn't get to see her because
it could have been the
cancer. They wouldn't let us
in
the hospital. That could be a thing.
It could be a thing, but it's also realistic. The whole scene in the end of the series when the Russians, like, she could die. It's like, how dare you say that? But the truth is, people get cancer and die, and that's something that people have to deal with.
And then she gets back in touch with him on the phone. And she talks to him about it like, hey, I was thinking about what you said and you were right. Like, she did die. And he's like, well, this is life.
Yeah.
Come join me in Paris.
I guess I have
many ball gowns for you to sit around in your hotel room in.
I guess there's hope that maybe they get Samantha to come back at some point. She's never going to come back, but maybe that's why they keep that door open. And then
they can't write her back in after this.
And then I know that they want to get, here's the funny thing is they have nothing to do with Carrie outside of Big. When she's with Big, they're bored. They're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to write this character. This character can't exist with Big, which is a problem.
That's true, because they always made him like freak out at some point.
Yes,
or her freak out.
They could have gotten a divorce, but it's
No,
strange.
I wouldn't want to see all that.
Yeah, after we went through everything too. But that's more, I mean, he could also die, but then you can have two people die.
Listen,
Whatever.
It doesn't have to be Carrie, all right? She's dealing with her own shit. We don't have to have the sex part of her life anymore. Or maybe she could also be dealing with
need to see
getting
her
older, and he has prostate issues, and so he
can't get
can't
it
have
up.
sex or something. Yeah, he can't get, I don't know, whatever. And then she could get all insecure and blah blah blah.
He
and
doesn't
then
find me attractive.
Have the other characters deal with the actual world.
Yeah, I need more, but I do need scenes of Carrie having sex with her top on. So we need more
with her bra constantly on, always in the bra.
We need more of that.
I never take off my bra during sex, ever.
Well, she had that no nudity clause.
She would wear see-through bras.
Doesn't matter.
She probably, because they're big boobs, but they're not really that big. I just think they're probably pretty flat, which is fine. But so they look good up in a bra, but when they're free hanging, they probably don't look as good. And so she probably just didn't want them to be seen.
Which is fine. Who cares? You can do whatever you want. But yeah, it is funny. But I think, I don't know how we can sum it up. I hope you feel good with where we went.
I do feel really good.
It is a problem overall with a lot of these shows that come back. And I can't think of specific examples now, which is I should have prepped a bit better on that front. But
for what? For other shows?
Yeah, other shows that, what they're doing with characters that people know, and if they're, true to the motivations are true to what the characters' motivations would be.
When they brought back Arrested Development, the problem with those new episodes wasn't the characters. The characters were the same. It really was just, you couldn't recapture that lightning in a bottle. It was just done. And maybe the writing was different or something, but the characters were still the same.
Yeah, well, they did do that one season where it's we can't get everyone together. So, but I didn't watch the one where they finally did get them all back together.
I stopped watching because it was disappointing.
Yeah, because that's the magic's gone, like you said.
And again, Portia's face was all fucked up from surgery, and I couldn't look at it.
The ensemble cast was what drove that, and to have them individual episodes, nah, that doesn't work. I'm not getting what I need out of that.
No, I want to see.
I do think.
Yeah, the people interact.
I do think there's a responsibility. As a creator, you can do what you want, but it should make sense. It's okay, you're challenging yourself. Maybe you're in a spot where it's hard to write what you want to write, while keeping it real to whatever the universe is you created. But that's part of it. And if you can't write it, then don't fucking do it. If it can't be done. It doesn't have
to be that difficult. Why does every character that we see have to deal with gender issues? Can't it just be one? And then she talks about it at the coffee shop. Where's the fucking coffee shop, by the way? Why are they not sitting in a coffee shop making funny little things, saying something? Say something funny.
No, the comedy's gone. The comedy's gone. Just let that part go. This is evolved into a drama. There's no comedy.
Stanford has to hide from Charlotte?
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. And the fact that Stanford's actually dead, that's sad.
Oh, God.
It is.
I know. I forget sometimes that he actually died.
He had cancer also and didn't tell anyone. I think about living with that. I'm just going to continue on. And then, anyway, on that happy note.
He looked good for someone with cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't look sick. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the show. We're going to continue to record through the holidays. So I think we'll be the only podcast updating in your feed because so many people take time off during the holidays, but not us. Anyway, please support our sponsor, hoffandpepper.com. You can get 15% off some locally made in Chattanooga hot sauce. Use our code OneTopic15 for 15% off. Bye.